Welcome. Good afternoon. I'm José Galvano. On behalf of the program from APRESID called Regionales, I want also welcome the Journalist Association, La Porteña. Thank you for coming. From APRESID, we believe communication is vital and we should increase communication and in a more efficient way. Therefore, along with people from La Porteña, we have organized this panel to communicate better with the society and in a more effective way. I give the floor to our friend so that he can officially introduce the panel. Enjoy the sessions. Thank you, José Galvano, for this introduction. The panel is composed of Magalí López Manetto from CASAFE, Susana Merlo from La Porteña, and Javier García from Nidera. Gustavo Hierro will be the moderator from La Porteña, who belongs to the Association of Food Journalists Association. The topic will be communication between the countryside and the society. Gustavo Hierro was a member of the main editorials in the country. He worked for Clarín, Página 12, Noticias, Tercer Sector, Guardián. He also worked in the radio, Continental, AM590 and Rivadavia Radio from Buenos Aires. He entered into the ag journalism. Well, he was a writer for 12 years. He also was member of the program Vamos al Grano in the radio. He was also chief editor in the Chakra magazine. He wrote for the Infocampo section. Now he is the chairman of the association in Buenos Aires, and he is editor of the CASAFE newsletter. He studied journalism and political sciences in Buenos Aires. He will be the moderator of this panel, Challenges in the Communication Between the Countryside and the Society. Good afternoon. Thank you, Gaston. To begin with, thank you for Regionales, the program from APRESID, for this panel. We feel honored as communicators when we are called to talk about communication. In general, experience shows that the countryside has excellent communications among themselves, but communications with the outer sectors has not been enough professionalized. This is what our lecturers will talk about today. Having APRESID inviting people from this field to talk about this topic is a very important milestone. What is a food journalist from Buenos Aires? We are an entity gathering professionals from the communication field under food topics. People in this field work or publish in the autonomous city of Buenos Aires, national press media of the highest relevance because they are seen from the whole country but generated from Buenos Aires. Our organization is local and regional. We offer our members logistics assistance to cover journalistic notes. We try to facilitate their task. We offer a space for exchange to provide sources among colleagues and organize training sessions on topics from our area of interest. To be a good communicator, you need to know about the topic. If the communicator is not duly trained, he will not be able to communicate in a professional way. Our entity was created to stimulate excellence and professionalism of journalists in these specific areas. Excellence means responsibility today. In our country, in many sense, it's not serious. We are working hard, we are doing everything we can so that those who work in the media and who say nonsense can really get knowledgeable on what they are talking about. We aim at helping them grow professionally as individuals. We also are members of similar entities at the regional level, same type of organizations distributed all over the country. We aim at a transparent journalistic practice with honesty and democracy. We want our profession to be more than a statement, something real that takes place all over the country. It's very important that journalists from different parts of the country can exchange knowledge. Every region is related to a local economy with particular features, so journalists from that region usually teach professionals from other areas about the challenges or the particulars of the things that take place at their regions. So this exchange is very important. This is what we do from La Porteña. We are here today in this panel, challenges that the communication between the countryside to the society faces. We want to start in a disruptive way. I'm not sure if we are going to attain this, but I think that somewhere here I have seen a friend of mine. Can you see him? Doesn't he look like the average grower, farmer? He looks like most of you. Don't you think so? When you are working, don't you look like him? I don't think so. Can you hear me? I think you have a farmer profile. I was called for a disruptive talk. I think I'm disruptive. I'm a fat person wearing human clothes. Well, this is Mariano Hurtado, and we will listen to him. We have no choice. Hello, how are you? You are all dead.
Uy, es el horario de la muerte.
This is the most terrible time of day. How are you? You look dead. The ones in the back of the room, how are you? Somebody here at the front says, not very well. How are you in the back of the room? Okay. You will have better times. My name is Mariano Hurtado. I was said that I have to talk about communication. And I said, isn't there anybody better than me? I look like La Nata, but I'm a mixture. I dress like Justin Bieber, but I have the body of a folk singer. So no one understands what I'm suggesting. In my life, I do stand-up. I'm a stand-up comedian. Those of you who don't know what a stand-up comedian is, it's a parade of drag queens, but I'm the most beautiful of them. So what I do is a stand-up comedy, but I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to ask you some questions. I know that the time is late, we want to go home. Maybe it's just me who wants to go home. I can stay or I can go away. Some people said, okay, I have had some coffee, some whiskey, but we're here, so let's do something. the fat guy is on stage, so let's do something. You're not going to leave. The doors are locked. So let's put some energy into this. Some people do want to put some energy. The rest, okay, sleep. I will go there. And you will make noise. Can you make noise? Wow. Please will come. I will go there and I will go back on stage, come back on stage, and I will start over, okay?
Ahí va.
Some people say, go, fat guy. It's bullying, what you're doing. I do stand-up comedy, but I also focus on communication. I studied communication at university. I have only few credits to get graduate, only 400 credits or a bit more. Really, I have only one more subject to graduate. I had to start that subject again because I had problems with the teacher, with the authorities of the university and the police that would come to pick me up from the university. So what I'm doing right now is communication, because I have always loved communication, how you communicate. Working is worse. You have to do something. So don't hold back. You can laugh. You can clap. Are you communicators? What do you do? One at a time, please. You do poetry? Ah, farmers. You are farmers or communicators? Farmers? Okay. So you have both ends. So I studied communication. I love communications. Communicators will understand me more. But I started studying communication because I love advertising. I thought that advertising was the best way to communicate, that it is really cool, that people understand you, it is a fantasy world. And as I grew up, I understood that some things in advertising make noise in my head, because we are in August 2016 and I still don't know whether Manaus, this new beverage, is a joke by Coca-Cola. Have you seen this advertising from Manaus? You cannot do something so bad on purpose. Anyone can do something better. You don't understand what they wanted to do. Who paid for that advertisement? Because in my opinion, Manaus, the soft drink, is an invention of Coca-Cola to tell us what we would become if we drink it. So say, okay, drink whatever you want, but unless you drink Coca-Cola, you would be that. And Coca-Cola sells you joy, happiness. Manaus, the soft drink, sells an actor, a football player, and a singer. So people ask, what should I drink not to be like you? I understand that I am saying bad things about a soft drink that I have never drunk. Maybe it's the best soft drink in the world. I never tasted it. Have any one of you drunk Manaus? Somebody is drinking it because they keep selling it. I don't know who drinks it. I don't know where you can buy it. I have never seen it anywhere. If you want to buy this soft drink, where do you go? If you go to the grocery store, you have Coca-Cola. You have Coca-Cola and you buy one and they give you two. And Manaus advertisement, many of you who are farmers understand what I find odd. For instance, they hired this singer, Chaqueño Palavecino. This is a folk singer, and a folk singer and Manaus do not match because the singer, in my opinion, drinks mate, not a soft drink. And you have the singer drinking the soft drink. People who live in metropolitan Buenos Aires, we see the advertisement starts okay in a field, in a farm where we all want to live because we are very short of a space. We have a barbecue that is great, and they are drinking a soft drink. Nobody wants to drink because he does this, and it seems he's not drinking it. I probably believe that there's a log here, and you have the bottles there. And I believe that the singer is not drinking that, but some wine that he drinks when people are not video. But where do they get the money for that? So communicators sometimes get a lot of money. It's expensive to do advertising. I don't know whether some drug dealer is paying for this drug dealer. I don't know whether the singer owes some money to the person who produces the soft drink, or what's the relationship between this folk singer and the soft drink. That is an example where people put money in advertisement and you get with a product that is really bad. I don't drink that soft drink. And then you have a different example. They have spent a lot of money, and it's too much. I was at home and saw the advertisement of Nespresso. You know Nespresso? Some people answer questions here, or you never answer questions. Maybe you're Germans and you don't understand me. Do you know Nespresso, the coffee making machine? It's a coffee making machine. You buy the capsule and you get the coffee as a coffee should be. It's like Juan Coffee Maker, God Coffee Maker, that comes here and gives you a cup of coffee. And the advertisement is George Clooney. I think they spend too much. It's too much of an actor for a coffee making machine. I don't know if I can drink that coffee now because I don't reach the bar. George Clooney is much, it's a higher bar. So people say, can I get the coffee making machine? And people say, no, let's buy this one, which is less expensive. If you want to clap, you can give me a round of applause. If you listen to one person clapping, please follow him, because being left alone when you you are clapping is really sad. You lose your children in the beach and nobody will pay attention to your clapping. But George Clooney is too much of an actor for anything, because he is too much of an actor. He is so handsome. We men, we have to agree, George Clooney is handsome. I see him in the advertisement and I get a bit horny. Ricky Martin, that's somebody else. It's okay. If Ricky Martin says, give me a kiss, you have to kiss him. You have George Clooney standing there, drinking a cup of coffee, and a girl comes behind him, looks at him and says, George Clooney, because everybody knows him. I drink a lot of coffee, but 7-8 liters a day to see if women pay attention to me. I live in a one-room flat. It's very small. They put me in there and they build the walls around me. It's really, really small. So I am at home preparing an instantaneous coffee. You are never happy when you do that. You know that after that you get an ulcer. And this coffee I use, which is very cheap, you can stir it hours and you will never get a good coffee. And nobody comes to me. You see that no women get to me. Even my mother calls me my brother's name. My mother doesn't pay attention to my name. But going back to George Clooney advertisement, they spend so much money, useless money, because that's too much. That George Clooney is always there trying to use the money they've spent, because all the time you have George Clooney's face on camera. And the coffee making machine is very small in the back of the screen. It seems that they are selling you George Clooney, not the coffee making machine. I went to a store to buy the Nespresso and I said, can I have the George Clooney thing? I don't know. I don't know what George Clooney is selling. Something George Clooney is selling. Give me the worst part of George Clooney's life, which is the best in mine. Give me something. This is where we have two examples. You can spend a lot of money and have a terrible advertisement like the soft drink, or spend a lot of money and have such a big advertisement like the one from Nespresso. But communication is never going to be free. It doesn't mean you don't have to spend money. You have to invest your money properly. For instance, if you want to date a woman, you have to invest. You have to go to a restaurant, have good drinks. The other day on a date, I tried to save some money, and I asked her, would you like something to drink? Yes, Fernet. And I told the waiter, can I have a Fernet, a cheap one? And the girl never called me back. You cannot save money there. That's the moment to spend money. You have to hire the people that have studied, the people who can tell you where to invest, what to spend. I mean, I cannot have my gardener doing surgery on me. When you need communication, you have to hire the experts. I cannot be my own dietist or nutritionist. Which diet would I give myself? 3 chocolates a day, cocoa, the one you prefer, or those, because nutritionists tell you what you cannot eat. No rice. There's a problem with rice alfajores in Argentina. I like them. Because I am not on a diet, that's clear. But I like them, that's why I eat them. These rice alfajores, there's something about them that I like. I go to the sweet shop and I tell the people there, can I have one rice alfajor? And they tell me, why don't you get a real chocolate alfajor? And I cry. I cannot argue with the man who tells me that. I have some notes I want to check.
Talked about investment, hiring those who know. As I said, we sometimes say we don't have enough money. Sometimes farmers don't have enough money for communication. You do what you want with your money, but if you want to know what is the fact of not having any money, I'll tell you about my life. I rent a very, very small one-room flat. There's nothing worse than that. Should I go and sleep in an ATM? The card with for special prices is already spent. All the cards designed for people who don't have money are already exhausted. So we have to spend some money to communicate with the outer world. Communication among farmers is very good. You agree with it among each other. The same as happens with my friends. We agree on what we say. But then, when you go out, the reality is different. The communication you have among yourselves is very good within a certain case, but nearby there are two persons who don't understand anything. They keep wondering what is, for example, the name of this conference. What is resilience? You don't even know. What does it mean, resilience? Is it to recycle? How do you conjugate the verb? The important thing is to communicate with the outer world, and I could be the one from the outside world. I work for Agrositios. I have been working there for 5 years. If I have heard or listened to the people who came to me, so the ones I have reported, I could be an engineering, but I have never paid attention. I'm like the representative here of those of us who know nothing about farming. So I decided to create a PowerPoint presentation with including what you farmers think the society believe about farming, but I want to make a comment here. If you will be lecturing soon, please make an effort and create a great PowerPoint, something appealing, attracting. Do not overcrowd the PowerPoint with information. Sometimes they look like Bibles, or the information is too small. For example, a pie chart, very, very small, where you can see nothing. There's a lot of space which is being wasted because around the chart you can place several fat women. It has nothing to do with the cake.
El gordo riéndose de la gordura de una cosa.
The cake is lost in the middle. So I created a PowerPoint while I was checking some photos from other trips. I went to Europe and, well, my pictures were all messed up. I checked my PowerPoint to make sure there were no photos. But I want to show you a study that I carried out related to communication from the countryside. And this is the result. There is nothing. I checked that there are no photos from my holidays. Well, I thought there were no photos. You can see me in Barcelona, beautiful beach. The first phrase that I got from farmers is second-hand soy. I compared it against what I knew. From Wikipedia, I could get this definition. This is the soy for the second date.
The second planting.
Second planting date. And I thought it was a second hand because of a bad quality. That you can get from those markets where you can buy very, very cheap things. These are the trademarks that you can buy, not original ones, of course, from La Salada. Second slide. Oh, again another photo from my trip. I love art. I'm kissing a statue. No tillage. All my life I have connected no tillage with the TV program which in Spanish had a name similar to the translation in Spanish. So it means that I know nothing about about farming. How much did I pay to enter into the Vatican? Very expensive. They got my head when I had to pay. Next concept. GMO maize, and when I listen to the name of these concepts in Spanish, I connect it to a TV program which was very funny, but it had nothing to do with this farming practice. It was very funny because that is what I connect with the concept, things which come from outside the farming world. Trevi Fontaine, I'm a romantic, I'm tossing a coin, a very small coin, just €1. I will not spend more money. With 1 euro cent, I can get to a very important place in Buenos Aires, but I don't think I could get back to Italy. What is stubble? It's the name of an old truck that my father used to have. This looks like a famous journalist in Argentina praying Macri so that he can keep his job. What is weeds? In Spanish, the concept does not relate to what it is. The important thing is that the weed is something that you do not want to have planted. And I connected this to my marijuana plant. They asked me, is this a drug? And I said, no, this is a weed. But the policeman did not believe what I was saying. I spent the night in prison. I don't want to get back to those days. And the resistant weed for me is a very famous actress, an old woman in Argentina who is repeating her typical phrase, if they see you are bad, they will treat you badly. This is a very nice picture I took in my trip to Europe. It shows that you can have different viewpoints. This man looks like a handicapped from one side and like a Superman from the other one. What is that? Is this his third leg? What is hedge? Cover crops. For me, coverage is what Movistar does not offer. The telephone company has a very bad coverage. I connect the farming term with this, or with blankets, or with a chocolate that you can use to put on top of the cakes, because those names connect to similar names in Spanish for the farming concept. The thing is that I have been working in this field, but I know nothing about farming. Another important thing, value. Well, a sandwich is value, but referring to the value chain, this is the concept. You understand the concept. And I do understand it, but as a standard consumer, what's the problem between the orange and the citric juice? Which is the chain, the value chain? There's an enormous price difference between the fruit and the juice. What is inside that carton? Is there a golden necklace? I am never sure where to go to buy a secret. To the prawn or to the supermarket? To close my presentation, I wanted to share you this picture. Because of the prices, people eat more pork than meat. I'm a silly person, but this message isn't pork a type of meat. And this was published in Clarín, one of the most reputable newspapers in Argentina. They are saying that pork is not meat. I went to the doctor and he told me, Mariano, you have to cut down on meat. I said, I don't eat meat, I ate a pork yesterday. But there's a misleading communication.
Y el cerdo es carne, chicos, no. No hay mucho que discutir. Y ya me viene.
That was a similar sign which says that 2 people and 1 Bolivian died. Isn't he a person too? So you have some land. How much will you invest in communication? Come on, you have some land. You can invest 2 hectares on communication. Let's separate the legal from the illegal. You know how to do things. If you do something which is illegal, like watching Cuevana, it's the same as planting marijuana. I have 2 flower pots bases at home, and I have marijuana in one and I have no idea what I have in the other one. If they please come, I say, this is resilience, this is not illegal. They have no idea of what I'm talking about. Thank you very much.
Este no es socio de la porteña,
This is not a member of La Porteña. He made a joke, Mariano, and trying to be funny, he said something very important. Among all the things he doesn't know about farming, he said, you know how to do things. So let's take this, because he's giving us a clue of what the community thinks of farming. The community doesn't know what a value chain is, what is a BT corn, but the community knows that farmers know how to do things. So we have to make a big effort to make the community understand what the country lives from. And so we are now going to talk with our people. And the first person I'm going to call is someone I love hearing. She's a brilliant journalist. She's been in journalism many years. She's also a farmer. She's a person that wherever she goes, she's noticed, because she's very controversial. Not everybody agrees with her opinions, because she's fearless. She's even been a public officer, and she speaks her mind, and she can also analyze things. She's an agronomist, so she thinks like an agronomist. We came together by car from Buenos Aires. She has a way of thinking, a way of looking at things, and Susana Merlo is a great professional. I have her resume here. You have it in your folders. But I'm not going to read it, because she's been everywhere, in all the media you can think of. Currently, she has her own blog, Campo 2.0. She writes for big newspapers, big magazines. You read her, you see her. Susana Merlo. She will explain what the city believes farming is, or what is the image that urban centers have of farming. There's not much to say. After a comedian, it's difficult to go back to be serious, because Hurtado started by saying what I wanted to say, asking who are here, how many farmers are here, how many students are here, how many professionals. Because communication changes based on who listens and based on what for. Trying to think how to start a presentation like this one. I'm very critical. I was looking for the definition of communication. Communicate is getting something be known. There are so many ways of doing this. So I thought, communicate in rural areas as if rural areas are one single thing. It is so heterogeneous as people live there. It is not the same to talk to a farmer than to a contractor, a cooperative, the rural society, the tractor owner or the dairy owner. But what links them? What brings them together? We are part of a sector. Do we know how people look at us? Do we know the image, how society or the community perceives, what is the perception society has of the farming sector? I think in 2008 we had a glimpse of that because there was a trigger, something triggered in rural areas, and that brought the citizens to demonstrate something, but it didn't last. That coming together, that symbiosis disappeared quite quickly. So I said, okay, I want to make something be known. What specifically? I want people to know about a new grain variety, a new technology, a new machinery. Yes, something that can be communicated, but that is for the sector. It's something we communicate to us because that helps us work. What is missing? What is the claim in the provinces, in rural areas? They claim that people do not understand us. I couldn't listen to the congressmen, because there we have a big problem. Lawmakers that represent us do not understand us, or do not know us, or do not know which our priorities are. There was a question that was specifically my question: what's going to happen with soil fertilization law? Actually, it is called the soil protection law, to have tax benefits when you fertilize, but there was no time to discuss it. We ran out of time to answer that question. Maybe the most important question for 80–90% of the people here. So I said, okay, if Mahoma doesn't reach the mountain has to come to Mahama. So the problem we have is that we have excellent communication within our own sector, an excellent communication with the members of our sector about technology, equipment, etc., and we have no communication at all with the rest of the community. What is the perception that the community has about the farming sector? You can give me an answer. At least you can give yourselves an answer. What is the perception you think they have of the farming sector? Big weeping people, people that are always claiming and weeping. People say that the farming sector is the most benefited sector by public policies, and despite that they are not responding properly. It's not what I believe. It's what I hear people say. That's the perception. So what is the problem? The problem is that the first idea is to understand what we want to communicate. If we communicate because we want something to be known, the first question would be, what is it that you want to communicate as a farming sector? I cannot answer that. You have to answer that. But it has to be a very clear answer. What is it that you want to communicate?
Investment levels, variables that you are considering, I don't know, but we should state clearly: 1. What do I want to communicate? 2. Once we have defined what to communicate, that is how I want the society, the rest of the country considers me. Just one more sector, exclusive sector, a key economic sector, a sacrificed sector, the potential for the country, whatever I choose as a definition. Once I have defined that, I should define how I will communicate that idea. And I used to tell my kids that when I was young, we had games that were things that are only for kids, for small kids, that only small kids can understand. We used to have a phrase which was like a progenitor. It was like a tango game, very difficult to say, with difficult terms and difficult concepts to understand. But basically it means, Mom, my socks have holes. What I mean is that there are several ways to say things. Using difficult terms, technicisms, will not necessarily convey a more serious, certain, or more important thing to communicate. Sometimes this is even the contrary. Once I had a boss who did not like farming and the farming sector, and every time I submitted a report to him, he used to tear it away. He said, I don't understand what you are saying here, and if I don't understand, nobody will. So if I used the technicism, I had to explain, I had to translate into a language that lay people could understand, because those of us who belong to the farming sector will understand. But we should care about those who do not belong to our sector. We want them to understand us. So the way how things are said is almost as important as what we say. And the third point is, who is our target audience? Those of us from the farming sector are familiar with internal communication, communicating with the farm or within the sector. I have talks in the rural association with third parties, but everyone who belongs to my farming sector. We are not used to communicate with people from other sectors, from the rest of the society. So they don't get known, they don't understand, or they just don't know. And what you do not know about, you don't support. And that's an important third pillar. We can't think that the issue for farming is that people don't understand us. This is putting things in the wrong order. from the farming sector, we should define what we should do to be known for the rest of the country, so that the society knows what we mean. Otherwise, we will be wasting a valuable quality, which is the political power from the farming sector. Why is there a power? Because everyone needs food. And every time we sit at the table, we will be eating what has been produced at the farm. But that assessment is not real. So we define what we are going to communicate, how we are going to communicate it, and who will be our target audience. It's not the same audience if you will be communicating to a woman who needs to be explained about what meat is, what different parts of the beef can you buy, what foods you can prepare, and I will have a language for that person. But the economist or the politician will need a different way of speaking from me. If I do not communicate appropriately, there will be deficit, as there was in 2013 with wheat, or the losses we had in the from the Kirchner administration. We can't believe they will know us if we do not communicate. We need to change the language we use to communicate with outer sectors. I will tell you an anecdote. I think this is what made me think that I would become a professional in the journalism field. When I was a young girl, there was black and white TV. There was an advertisement of a blonde girl with a blonde boy. They were playing in a wheat field. The wheat seems to be matured, and while they were playing, they heard a hen, and they started searching for the hen or the chicks. There was a black screen, and in very low case, with white words, there was a message: if you do not make the announcement, you will never sell. That's communication. If my sector does not communicate in a language the others can understand, they will never understand nor support me. So the only message to take home is, if you don't communicate, you will not sell. That is what I based my profession for 40 years. That's what has defined me. I'm an agronomist using the means to outreach the society, but I do believe the farming sector in Argentina deserves a bit more from a society which does not know what the farming sector actually is, and maybe that absence of knowledge is because the farming sector does not communicate. Please think about it. Thank you. As you know, some minutes ago, Gaston Guido has introduced me. He said I was a journalist from the El Federal magazine. Those of you who have read that magazine are aware that that magazine is no longer available. It was a tough situation. Many of us lost our jobs. Those who have created the magazine lost our jobs, but readers were deprived from a magazine which was successful. One of the reasons why the owners stayed took over the company and decided to close the magazine, among other business decisions. They put an end to this successful magazine. When I talked to the person who gave birth to this magazine, he said, in the future, things are changing. Communication is changing because people do not buy hard copies. Paper media is no longer to be, it will not be bought any longer. I have to make a comment on Newsweek in the US. It was cancelled, but then they had to reprint this because people wanted to read the paper magazine. Media that communication goes through is different nowadays. Social media is the absolute hub for information flow. I'm not sure if I should tell you this, but I will tell you a secret. When I was working with Gaston, organizing this panel, he worked really hard to make this possible today. For one of the meetings, there was a young lady who had been invited, and she started suggesting ideas that for the rest of us who are in our 50s, 40s, were new ideas, innovation, and it related to the way communication goes through the social media. CASAFE is lucky enough to have that person within its staff. She's a very handsome, and she's very, very smart. I want to give the floor to her. Magalí is a bit eager, nervous, but nobody will attack her. Magalí, rest assured that everything will be okay today. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Gustavo, for your introduction. I wanted to share with you the presentation I made up about digital communication to talk about the relevance of the social media and the changes, the resulting changes. You are all aware of the internet, what it is, what social media is, and I am sure you are all using them. Currently, social media is popular among businesses, companies, as a tool for communicating. The size is shown in a study from this company, which every year surveys the market at a global level and at specific countries. You can download this analysis from the internet to consider it further. It analyzes the world population, considering there are 7 billion of people. 3.4 billion are internet users, 2.3 people are active users of social media, and another huge amount of people use mobile devices to get connected to the internet. I also wanted to share with you the situation in Argentina. What is happening in Argentina? How many people are using social media? 43 million people in Argentina. That's the figure they gathered. 34 million of them are active users. 73 27 users, a million users are active users of social media, and more than 21 million people use these social media from their mobile devices. Clearly, the impact generated from these social media is huge, and the scope you can cover from them is huge. In Argentina, people mostly use Facebook and WhatsApp. A lower amount of people use Twitter with an 18% of use. These are the most widely used. These are high percentages considering the figures we have analyzed. I was not surprised by what this slide shows. What they measure here is the time we spend every day at our PC. The result is 4 hours 40 minutes, mobiles 3 hours 30 minutes, social media 3 hours 13 minutes, TV 2 hours 40 minutes. There is a change.
Con seguridad muchísimos años.
I am sure several years ago, TV had the largest percentage of audience. And recapping from what Gustavo said, it does not mean that we are only using social media. All these media are being used all together, but there's a trend. Chakra TV has launched this year online program, or Netflix shows what is demand TV on demand. The different businesses are changing so that they can be competitive in the market, and this change translates into users.
This report comes from January 2016, so it's quite new. There's a new trend. Just wanted to mention the digital communication of an institution, and I took the example of CASAFE, which is the example I know because I'm in charge of it. CASAFE has got 3 social media: Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are developing the communication we are developing in this social media has a common denominator, that is foods. We work with agrochemicals. The public perception of agrochemicals is very difficult, and we are in the eye of the storm. So in order to reach the community, we talk about food. That's a link between farming and cities. So we are working on this. Foods are part of us. In the social media, we find also what we call the validating third party. For those of you who are not in communication, is the person that advocates for your own message, which is very valuable for the community, because you see a company or an institution as a cold item, but if a person you know tells you because they see it in their social media, the level of trust is different. In the first case, I don't know if you can see it, I cannot read it from here. It's a person who says, I was born in a rural area, I grew up with farmers. This shows that CASAFE picture led these people to talk about personal experiences. These had 200 shares, so it reached 200 walls. So the viralization power is enormous. So minimum, we know that 200 people said share, many more likes. When we have a more technical communication, because in Facebook we do both things. mass communication and expert public. In Twitter, we work with communication, but in LinkedIn, we work with technical posts because each social media has a special audience. You know that you look for different things in each social media. I was told a few days ago I don't buy that newspaper because I don't like it, but I know they have an editor that I like, so I follow him on Twitter. This is what the social media create. Going back to this example in Facebook, where the communication is more technical and refers to empty containers of phytosanitary products, a person who is not part of the sector may ask, why do you make a difference between empty containers and full containers? This is something that a person who is not part of the sector has, because for us this is very clear. The interesting thing here is that CASAFE did not answer because somebody else answered. The answer was very interesting, an answer that CASAFE could not have given. This person says there's a law that is ridiculous, that allows you to take full containers with you, but the empty container has to be authorized. Basically, people do not carry the containers and we find them in the fields. So we have to work on a new container law. It is an issue CASAFE is working with. So again, one person we don't know gave an answer CASAFE can use. This is something difficult too. It refers to the soil preservation, and somebody said that no-till is the reason for flooding. We did not answer. This person was against no-till and the biotechnological package in general. In the social media, we receive many of these questions or arguments, and we always try to give the best possible answer. But when we see the intention is not good, we see that the person giving these opinions are always the same people. It's always the same people. It's not a lot of people making these awful comments. And two people answered. One said there's nothing to do. I mean, the biotechnological package and flooding are not connected. And another person says, why don't you go to INTA and ask an agronomist? Because it doesn't make any sense what you're saying, and you have no knowledge of the matter. So obviously, there's a space for discussion. You have to expose yourself, of course. You have to answer very quickly, but you also create a space where people can give your answers, and that has a bigger impact on people. This is a very important question. In order to communicate, you have to be an institution or a company. I've heard about communication in many conferences. Personally, I believe there's a lot to do. We have to communicate much more, and I think we have to get updated. We are still working on offline communication. The digital communication is here to stay. An exercise that I do very often is what big trademarks such as Coca-Cola do. Check what they do on Facebook, on Twitter, and you see that they work a lot there, and they do things exclusively for the digital communication. They are investing a lot of money. So do you need a communication staff to do this? We live in the digital era. This is the information era, and the user paradigm is changing. The user is not just a consumer. You cannot reach the user, the message stays there, and that's it. No, now it is a prosumer because it produces content and it also consumes that content. These people, the ones I mentioned before, they were creating and producing content because it's human content or human-produced content. Going back to Martín, the comedian who took some concepts and some definitions, where did he take those definitions? From the internet, from Wikipedia. And what is Wikipedia? Wikipedia is an encyclopedia made by all internet users. It's a network. A better example of prosumer than Wikipedia, I cannot think of any other. So, how many of you use social media? The challenge of communicating is not only in the institution, it lies also in each one of us. And it's true what Martín said. We have to invest in communication. How much can we invest? There's a lot of money, and you can do a lot with money. But if you contribute yourself with your personal opinion, since things get viral, we can contribute a lot. I've heard that there are about 4,000 people in this conference. What if these 4,000 people communicate something in their social media? So the message has to reach many people. And what can we seed there? We have a level of impact that we are not considering. Let me now share another example. People who handle their own personal social media very well. These are influencers. What do? They viralize information. They share information. They produce content. This is Contalito. I don't know Contalito. I know he has a good Twitter. I don't know what he does, but if I see him, I know he's Contalito, and he viralizes information. And it's very good what he does. He has about 7,000 followers. 7,000 people follow him. And those 7,000 people viralize the messages he shares from other institutions, from his own opinions. And this is Peco As. We have him here. I don't know his name. I don't know what he does. But I know that the information he posts on Twitter is very good. And he has 3,000 followers, and he's a well-known Twitter user in the sector. I know that he simply took the time to tweet every day by creating interesting content. And I mean content and opinions. And that is what I mean by producing content. Now let me share some tips, because I would love that you leave this room and start tweeting. How can I create contents? Well, by posting our ideas, giving opinions, going into conversations. there is a large number of companies developing digital strategies with professionals. Vitalize that if you think it is okay. You like CASAFE Communication or any other company, well, go on hashtags. Hashtags is the language of social media. The hashtag is a message. For instance, the good practices is represented by public and private institutions. The hashtag is the country does it well. I think we can all identify with that. If we can, all of us, create some content or use that hashtag with an image, I think that will be very, very useful, because social media are emotional in themselves. In this digital era, the private and the public borders are blurred. The social media are a public field. Everybody sees that. Maybe we have better privacy in Facebook. Maybe our profile image is not public, but how many of you have not posted the photographs of your last holidays? So we are transforming a private matter into a public thing.
In this blurred line, what we are sharing in social media are stories, emotional messages that we find difficult to convey as the farming sector. We are always focused on the scientific aspects, hard language. As Susana said, how do we communicate? Social media offer us at the reach of our fingertip what the field, what the farming sector does for us, why we like this sector, or what is this sector doing. As Susana has explained very clearly, we need to set a strategy, what to communicate. Do you want to communicate that the farming sector is good, is beneficial? Why? You have to use good photos. Every time you go to your field, to your plot, take a picture and share a good picture. Support what other companies say, messages that are sensical for you, to the farming practices, the good practices, which is something all of us are trying to communicate. Use questions like, did you know that? Share, tag, always inviting people to tag your message to viralize this. Communication is a challenge for all of us, and each of us has something to do. You do not need to hire specialized people to work in this field. We have the chance. We can convey a story with emotion. Let's tell the world what the farming sector is for us. We are influencers. We do influence our local media. Let's see what they do, what they post, and viralize this. Let's tell our own stories. I invite you all to join this communication challenge and make your contribution in the social media. It will be highly valued. I would like to give the floor to our last speaker for today. I am sure it is not easy what Javier García Moritán does. I have never done this. He is a representative of corporate communication from large, big companies. He is manager of corporate communications at Nidera. I couldn't really like to be you when you have to face the public opinion and when you have to face a society making questions or questioning the social, the economic, the political, the environmental aspects of the group of suppliers that provide with ag technology. Lately, I have noticed there's a trend from this economic center. They are willing to share that technology. Please share your experience with us. A burst of applause for him, and I'll give you the floor, Javier. Thank you. Good afternoon. I will be short. Just be patient. I don't want any introduction. I want to share an insight with you. There is no PowerPoint. I will take Gustavo's challenge and will share my experience with you. The first thing I would like to tell you is that you have to communicate what you are. Sometimes we try to get difficult ways of getting the society's acknowledgement, but we do not put that energy in doing what we have to do right. The first thing is, as companies, as corporate actors within the context we perform, we need to be transparent, to communicate clearly what we do. I'm sure we are all thinking about the politician who is not trustworthy because what he does every day has nothing to do with his statements. He may have the best social media followers, bloggers, Twitters, but his confidence is not supported by the excessive communication, and that can also apply to a company. Consistency is very important. There's a phrase that says what is not communicated is non-existent. For a long time, we believe that low profile made people believe that if you were doing your job, performing your tasks without much mentioning of your name, not even for acknowledgement of the things that you do well, it used to be a criterion, but this is no longer existent. When you do not communicate, you are not being transparent, and somebody else will communicate on your behalf. Whether you like it or not, today communication is mandatory for every institution. That's the balance between what we do and what we say. That's the challenge we face from the farming sector. Before considering the technique, the tool, the device, the innovation, are we proud of the company we work for, of the sector we represent, of the way we carry out our operations? Ultimately, we should be satisfied with the place we are working. We should be taking a decision if we are not happy. But as a human being, you should be happy with the place or the company that you work with, because that represents you, and your performance is related to this. Now, on behalf of Nidera, when there's nothing you have to hide, you are transparent, you have an open doors policy. Communication is a natural thing, and that's a challenge that we are invited, all those who belong to this sector, because we are accused of several things. I'm not going to state what sayings are true, what is not true, but the thing is that the industrial sector receives criticism from several other sectors from the society. I invite you to believe on a low profile in terms of legal compliance, communicating the least possible to carry out our operations, or open doors to authentic, to good dialogue. Those who are fundamentalists do not communicate genuinely. So if we open doors, we should invite those who will support us, not those who will hurt or damage our image. There are other environmental organizations with a serious and consistent background, with followers, supporters who are certain about doing good things for our world, but they sometimes fall into temptations. So we should be aware of that. Nidera, for about 5 years, has communicated actively, and for those who criticize us are invited to talk honestly with us, and maybe that's part of the job I have to do for the sustainability activities of our company. If you want to respect your stakeholders, who will you meet? Those who will support what you say, to focus your communication, or you will go and talk to those who will raise the standard and will pose you in front of a challenge. There's no more room for the hiding strategy. The best thing is to capitalize the sayings of those who criticize me by inviting that person or entity to dialogue and join with him to carry out strategies that will strengthen the way I manage my business. In Nidera, in this regard, we did this. Sustainability management is a natural vehicle of corporate communication. When I talk about sustainability, I mean we are recognizing ourselves as relevant actors. We cannot ignore the challenges those nearby our range of operations are facing. If you want, you can just be a citizen in compliance with law, with your responsibilities, or you can take a commitment to add value. The corporate citizenship is a company that believes part of the environment where he or she operates. He has a contribution for that challenge. Of course, this implies a serious analysis of how and when and where you will make the contribution. But you have to take an active position. It's impossible to communicate something you are not, or something that people can trust. And Nidera has that value. And just very briefly, from Nidera, we have had an open doors strategy in sensitive topics. This comprehensive commitment with our environment has made us take more, have led us to do much more of what we ought to do. We are developing the rural community. I want to invite you to think how we can see the future of our company, a company that is based on rural production. We have facilities, we produce on wide areas in Argentina. How can we think of that if we are not an active part, an active actor within that sector? People who work for us belong to that sector. Our facilities are based in the in the rural areas. What should we do to avoid a situation which would impede us from operating? Nidera is proactively choosing to develop the rural sector from the most comprehensive position possible. For example, one of the efforts we are carrying out is a cultural one, because based on the analysis we have carried out with a non-governmental organization, has taught us there are several towns where inhabitants say there are no cultural activities, there is nowhere to go and think. So we have developed a simple program that relates to that reality and is connected to our business. This program creates areas in the towns where we have our facilities, and we organize events with philosophers promoting workshops where people can think of themselves, they ponder on their links, on their relationships with neighbors, to rebuild confidence with their neighbors. That has to be built from a different position, not from funding. We need to set healthy links between towns, between the peoples, and as corporations, we do have a role to play. Are we going to take an active role in the environment where we operate, or will we just abide to legal terms? This is one of the initiatives we have developed, just to mention an example. Nowadays, we are having some roundtables with opinion leaders, officers, celebrities from the art world. We are inviting them to think, to share opinions, and we are creating documental videos. We want to discuss about topics which are current topics, things that we all care about. Our strategy is just giving visibility to those topics affecting us, and we want to be part of those topics rather than talking about the topics, which is something necessary from the marketing point of view, but from the corporate communication, we believe that what the society expects from us is to show them how we create value, social, environmental value. There are no successful companies in societies which fail. If our environment is a power community, if people leave that place, we will not succeed there. So apart from considering the techniques or the tools that were masterly explained by Magalí, why don't we think of content in which, before doing, we ponder on what we are, which is the value I want to contribute to the society. I invite you to visit our site, Agroapasionados. There's a space for reflecting on the society. We want to be an influencer in the social media. Also is Agricultura Consciente, a portal where good environmental practices are promoted to improve productivity while taking care of the environment. We do have several tools. We want to show our yearly administration, and in a few days our new web page will be launched, nidera.com.ar. We will show who we are, what are our products and services, how we address sustainability. It's far from our NDA. We are sustainable if we perform responsibly with an open door policy, inviting those who have any concern to come and discuss, listening to those who criticize our company or our business, to grow from their criticism. Sometimes we should also address those sensitive topics which affect my company, the image of my company should be tackled. The Pope has reflected magnificently on the agricultural industry. It's the message on environment. Please read this as agribusiness people, and it will show you that we cannot refrain from activity, from taking part. If people are criticizing, then we should consider, while giving shape to our communication strategy, that we should revise what we do, how we do it. If we need to make corrections, let's do them, but communicate what you are, and that will render confidence, which will in turn support our country, our community with credibility. Thank you.
Well, three people talked about what I think they did is give you a gift, give you a mirror where you can look at yourselves, because they have asked you to do your homework, to look at the man in the mirror. A big company like Nivera or a big institution like CASAFE that gathers many important companies, maybe yes, maybe no, have got the possibility of potentiating, of paying an army of Twitters, something that doesn't exist. We do not have that in our country. So that they go out in Twitter and make people talk about something. As individuals, you cannot do that. But each one of us, if we get involved in topics, if we take part when things are said in the social media that do not correspond to reality, by answering, responding, giving our opinion, saying what we can say, so that we shed some light and we make people understand what this is about. If we understand that, communication will be better, and the task we have ahead of us is huge. We have no more time, so I regret that we have taken so much more time than allotted, and we thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.